702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
25 minutes before 11 o'clock. I've really enjoyed the history lessons we've been getting over the last couple of weeks on our series that we do every single Monday around this time, where we look at South African wars. It's been a fascinating history lesson. We started with the first Boer War. We then looked at the Anglo-Zulu War of 1879, and then we discussed the second Anglo-Boer War. We looked at the Khoisan Dutch Wars, and last week we focused on the Sekhukhune Wars. Today, we're looking at the Ndwandwe-Zulu Wars. These were a series of intense conflicts in the early 1800s that played a crucial role in the rise of the Zulu kingdom under King Shaka, and also marked the decline of the once dominant Ndwandwe under Chief Zwide Kalanga. And when you look at these wars, you see how they were far more than military confrontations. They were moments of profound transformation, and I think they altered settlement patterns, pushed entire communities into migration, but also heavily influenced the formation of new states beyond the borders of present-day South Africa. We've got Professor Musa Xulu, who is a cultural expert, who's going to guide us through this conversation as we learn more about the Ndwandwe-Zulu Wars. Prof, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you very much, my brother, for inviting me, and good morning to your listeners.
Can you briefly first explain to us who the Ndwandwes and the Zulus were before the wars began?
Well, the Zulus were a clan, really, situated in the valley of Makosini, which is around Lundi. Very small, one of the smallest of the clans at that time. That is before 1816. The dominant ones were the Mtetwa, around Richards Bay, Mpangeni, and then, of course, the Ndwandwe around Nongoma. You remember when the car number plates, before they were changed in KZN to what it is now, it was NND, Natal Ndwandwe. The site of Nongoma town itself is where the big palace of King Zwide was situated. And then, of course, there were others, the Hlubis, which were never defeated, and they claim even today that their kingdom is not really part of the Zulu kingdom. Mm-hmm. And many others to the west of Nongoma were the Kumalo of Mzilikazi Kamashobane. Our own kingdom, the Zulu kingdom, was around the Melmoth area, and in what now, because Shaka then defeated us and took our land and gave it to the Biela. Mm-hmm. And then, those were, and then the Mhlongo, where Shaka's mother came from, of Elangeni, very dominant also around Melmoth, the southern side of Melmoth, and others of other clans, and kingdoms came from others. For example, the Biela came from the Zulu, etc., etc. So that was more or less the kingdom map, mm-hmm. in some in KZN, excluding, of course, the southern sides where the Celes of Begicele were dominant, and the Mkunu were dominant around Msinga, even today, and so on and so on. Yes.
Okay. So what factors led to the escalating tensions between the Ndwandwe and the Zulu kingdoms?
Well, firstly, Shaka came to the throne, ascended the throne in 1816. He had grown up under King Dingiswayo of the Mtetwa, and King Dingiswayo and King Zwide were not friends at all. So when he came to power, being a protege of King Dingiswayo, one of his decisions was that he must defeat Zwide at some stage on behalf of King Dingiswayo. And for 2 years, 1816 to 1818, he was fighting with the smaller tribes and clans, and all that he would do was surrender and become part of. He changed the Zulu surname to a Zulu kingdom. But in 1818, this is what happened. The King Zwide decided to lure King Dingiswayo by getting his sister to marry King Dingiswayo. But there's a lot of witchcraft there. And in that marriage, soon after the two had gotten married, King Dingiswayo sort of lost his mind, and he walked in the direction of Nongoma, wanting to meet with King Zwide, his now brother-in-law, and then the Langas, the Ndwandwes, killed King Dingiswayo. That made King Shaka very angry, and he wanted to revenge immediately. The fighting itself started around Ulundi. By the way, the Zulu armies at that time were very, very small compared to the Ndwandwe, who were massive at that time. But Shaka then launched a war of attrition. And because Zwide was uncomfortable with leaving Shaka, he followed him. So Shaka moved south. And everywhere he went, he drove cattle and away with him. And he also put fire on the crops and everything. And then eventually the Ndwandwe got hungry, but there was no food as they pursued Shaka's armies. Came to Mhlatuze River, where eventually the Zulus were able to defeat them at night. As the Ndwandwes were very hungry and sleeping, so in the open, and then they were defeated. And then what they did, the Shaka army took on the attire of the Ndwandwe Amabuto, put it on, and started singing the songs of Ndwandwe as they went to Nongoma now. So when they approached Nongoma, Zwide was dancing, saying, wow, eventually we defeated them. And they entered the Zwide palace, the Nongoma palace. He saw that, no, these were Zulus. And then that's where he basically had to flee. So it was very dramatic.
Okay.
But after that defeating Zwide, Shaka did not immediately move to Nongoma. I think the Zulu kingdom, royal family moving to Nongoma started only with King Dinizulu after the 79 Anglo-Zulu War. Yeah.
So, I mean, we talk about these key role players, and I wonder how significant their leadership was. Maybe you can talk to us about that, the role that the leadership of Shaka on the one side and of Zwide on the other side play in shaping the outcomes of these wars.
Well, Shaka was more of really a war tactician and a strategist. I think some of the ways of fighting that he had adopted had never been seen. For example, before Shaka came, clans would quarrel and decide on a date sometime in the future to meet and fight. And they would throw long spears, and if one group went out of spears, then it would say peace, and then they sit down and start drinking together once more. Shaka came with a short spear. The short spear, where I remember in the first battle with the Buthelezi of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, they were not aware that Shaka had changed the strategies. So they threw all their long spears, and then Shaka's troops were just looking at them. And after they ran out of spears, then the Shaka warriors started advancing, and they then defeated them. So the strategies of Shaka was clear that he wanted to build a bigger kingdom in the region, whereas Zwide was, I think, satisfied with the kind of power that he had. And he was basically king of many people of his own clan, but also the Mngangos and a few other surnames of the time. He spread towards from Nongoma to Pongola Vryheid and of course to around London, so on down to the sea. So that when he was defeated, there was a lot of fleeing. Mzilikazi Kamashobane of the Kumalo fled and landed up in Zimbabwe, Matabele land. Others fled to as far as Zambia, who had been under King Zwide. So Shangane fled, and he was in Ndwandwe, fled to as far as Mozambique, where he established the Gaza Kingdom. Zwangendaba of the jail, who had also been under Zwide, fled to Malawi and southern Tanzania, and they still call themselves Ngoni even today, those people. They long very much to come back, and they have maintained some of the cultural practices of the kingdom. For example, the first fruit ceremony, and also they dress almost exactly like the warriors of that time when they're in these ceremonies.
Sure. Yeah, that's fascinating, and I want us to talk in a moment, and I'm glad you touch on the issue of migration, because of course these Ndwandwe-Zulu Wars influenced, not just these clan structures, but migrations and community identities in the region, and we'll speak more about that in a moment. I want to take some WhatsApp voice notes on 072-702-1702.
Good morning, Clement. This is Kabele from Pretoria. I would like you to ask Professor Xulu that during the period under discussion, what was the common language amongst the clans? Was it isiZulu as we know it today, or was it different? And then if it wasn't isiZulu, what was it? What were the different languages called? Or the common language, what was it? isiZulu, was it called something else?
Oh, thank you. Great question there. Professor Xulu?
No, they were more known as Ngoni, Bengone. And the language was called Isingoni or Isintu. You must remember that even today, what we call isiZulu now, which I think was consolidated eventually by the schooling system, but it's a very much regionally based language, and you'll find that there are terms and so on that you find among the Mtetwa, for example, that you'll not find among the Zulu at Nongoma or any other. But it was generally differences were like you'll find between isiZulu of today and isiXhosa, for example, which are very close. So they were Nguni languages. That's why he wanted to unite all of them, because Shaka was motivated by the fact that actually linguistically they seem to be talking the same language, and some of the cultural practices were actually the same. And that's what motivated him. That's why he never attacked Basotho, for example, Moshweshwe. He never attacked anyone who did not speak the Nguni language at that time, because he was clear that he wanted to unite these people into something bigger. He had also been told that the whites are coming, and therefore he needed these people to be together so that, in his own thinking, the whites would arrive and start attacking while he was still king. But unfortunately, it happened differently. The whites only came in 1824, and those were traders. But then a couple of years later, they came attacking, as he had seen it coming.
Okay. So what else was able to be influenced by these Ndwandwe-Zulu Wars? You spoke of migration. Were there clan structures, community identities in the region that were also influenced?
Well, whoever was migrating and fleeing would start a war in various parts of what is now more or less called SADC, and fight with those that they found along the way. So there was movement and dispositioning of peoples and communities, not only in the present day KZN, but also as Mzilikazi was moving north, he fought with almost everybody, including with the Boers and with the Basotho, with the Bapedi and so on, until he reached what is now called Zimbabwe. So there was a lot of movement. Its historical name is called Mfekane, Tifakane, the entirety of the region became unstable for a good number of years, until the black people had a common enemy, firstly with the Boers, and then later with the English. But Shaka was also a trader, so he didn't really. He did fighting for reasons, but he also was trading a lot with those nationalities that he did not want to attack. The Basotho, the Xhosas, the Mampondo, and all of those people. He was trading also with white people in terms of the tusks of the elephants. And all of those things, and that brought him a lot of cattle. At some stage, there were more cattle in the Zulu kingdom than there were people. And he was a free giver as a result. He was a very rich man in terms of those times. So he became a very free giver. If you did something good, culturally, you would be given what we call today degree or something, but it's called miyazane. That's a recognition of your achievements, and everyone as a result wanted to be seen by the king to be achieving either in war or in terms of ensuring that communities have a good life and so on. Everyone wanted to have a big name so that you could receive 10, 20 cattle from the king as a result of your achievements.
Yeah. Here are some more WhatsApp voice notes that have come through.
Hi, Clement. This is a very interesting discussion you are having today. Quite an important history in South Africa. But one thing that I will not celebrate is that the Zulus, or under the king of the Zulus, became a warmonger. And it's not different from the colonizers, because they went around conquering other small nations and making them Zulus. But I don't remember anywhere where, besides war, where they led to the development of that part of the country, which is rather unfortunate. Yeah.
Hi, Clement. Sure. What an insightful recollection of history from Babu Xulu, and thank you so much. I think for me, I 100% concur with what he said. I was fascinated, I think about 3 years ago when I visited Tanzania, and as he said, the Ngoni people, as they call themselves, which I think is a derivative of Nguni, they dress exactly as the Zulu warriors. And the languages, there's a lot of similarity. So they in Tanzania, they're obviously one of 600 tribes, but the fact that they've maintained the essence of the Ngoni identity. And yeah, so it's true that really our borders, the borders that were created by colonialism, they didn't exist before. And as Africans, we are, if you trace it back, we are one people at some point in time, or we have common ancestors. So thank you so much for sharing that. This is Soso and Wendy Wood.
Oh yeah, Soso, absolutely. There's a book I've just finished reading. It's titled Journey Kwantu, Exploring African Spirituality and Identity by Vusumuzi Ndwandwe. And I recommend it heavily because it also helps you just trace our own movements, even here on the African continent. Professor Xulu, any reflections on that, particularly the first one, who says, that first voice note that says, I don't want to really celebrate this because, at some point, the Zulu kingdom abused its military might and was now subjugating and affecting other clans.
No. It could be correct, but as I said, Shaka did not attack people who he considered to be not part of his plan, especially all the Basotho versions. He didn't attack them at all, and he didn't attack the Hlubis. He didn't attack the Xhosa. He didn't attack anyone. He was focusing on these people, and as I said earlier, he had been warned that the whites are coming, and therefore he needed these people because they spoke the same language and so on, to be united. In consequence of that, yes. Look, human beings in history, you must also remember that during the same period, Europe was very unstable. There was Napoleon Bonaparte, then there was Bismarck, and so on, and there were similar wars that were fought, which were called unification wars in Europe during the same period, and they had not seen each other, and there was no TV, and there was no social media, and so on. So something was happening at that time in the history of human society around the globe, maybe in Europe and here. So when Shaka, the spirit of the warrior among the Zulu has got many other dynamics, because one of the biggest battles in 1856 on the 2nd of December, like tomorrow, was between the two sons of King Ndwandwe, who fought over the Tukela River for the throne, and 20,000 people were killed on that one day. So there has always been, from time to time, and then in the 1880s, King Ndwandwe-Zulu fought a lot of battles with the Zulus of Mandlakazi, he being Zulu of Osut. So there has also been lots of internal wars, very destructive among the Zulus, which I think maybe from the spiritual side, somebody needs to look at it, because, even today, when you're looking for an Inkabi, and the hired assassin, you will easily get one from KwaZulu-Natal. I'm just saying that maybe I can't say I differ with that caller. I'm just saying that when you look at things from different angles, sometimes you find yourself agreeing that the spirit of the warrior should have been eliminated so that we focus on development.
Yeah. Are there other sources like oral or written that are most valuable in helping people understand this period accurately? Some people on the WhatsApp line are asking about any books out there that one can buy regarding this period, this particular history.
Well, there's a lot of books. In my own library, I have a 5-volume series, which was literally recorded from the 1880s from oral sources of people who had seen Shaka and were able to describe him. The series is a multi-volume series. It's called James Stewart Archives. It's very informative, because those are oral recordings of actual people who had seen Shaka, and some of them were there in some of these wars that he was fighting, or at least their fathers were there. And most of the history books that have been written, you can Google books on Zulu history. It's a lot.
Yeah.
There is some of it is published in England by the likes of Ian Knight. My own book focuses on traditional leadership, a little bit of the history, for example, of how it came about in KZN after Shaka, and then with colonization and so on. People can Google. I see another book here also that talks about the Zulu kingdom until King Jaya. And then another book here also focuses on the period after 1879. And so on. There's a lot. If you Google Zulu kingdom books, you're likely to come across nothing less than 20.
Yeah. Oh, Professor Musa Xulu, thank you for some of those recommendations, and thanks for making time for us. He's a cultural expert talking to us about the Ndwandwe-Zulu Wars. It's a minute before 11.